Now, Kevin, to kick this one to you, with the Miami Heat sitting as the number one seed in the Eastern Conference at this current moment in time, do you think they have a legitimate shot to make it to the finals this season?
Absolutely. I mean, we all know that just because you're the number one seed doesn't necessarily guarantee or, give you the favorite chance to be in the finals. But when you're playing at the level that Miami is and at the clip that they're doing, I don't see why not. I mean, they've beaten a great couple of teams. They beat Brooklyn twice in the last couple of weeks. They beat Philadelphia. Granted, James Harden was not playing, but still a good MVP candidate in Joel Embiid to have to combat against and, have to deal with his presence on the court. And overall, the Heat are just showing how dominant they are. And it's not one particular player. Kyle and I were talking about this prior. They're a very well oiled machine. They have a lot of great role players. They have people that don't necessarily need to score, but their presence are felt. In particular, of course, PJ Tucker has never been known for offense, but him as a physical enforcer, contributing on the defensive side of the ball for his rebounding, his hustle plays, his ability to create havoc on mismatches. Obviously, sometimes he plays the center for Miami in a lot of their small ball instances. But again, they have players that just know their role. Tyler Hero, six man off the bench, fighting for six man of the year. We all know that Victor Oladipo has not yet touched the floor in quite some time, but when he comes, he's probably going to add a spark off of that bench as well. Bam Adebayo, one of the better centers in the league. We all know the veteran presence that Kyle Lowry brings to the table. We all know what Jimmy Butler's here for. Duncan Robinson, their sharpshooting specialist, and a couple of litany other players that do not get a lot of credit. But overall, a very well assembled and put together team is making strides to go back to the finals like they did against the Lakers just a few years ago. So Eric Spoelstra at the helm and a lot of the same returning guys from that 2020 championship team. I believe Miami is very much so poised to compete in the Eastern Conference and potentially go to the finals. And it shouldn't really be a shock to a lot of other people. I mean, when you beat Chicago, when you beat Brooklyn, when you beat Philly, those are some of the top teams in the NBA in and of itself. I mean, they lost to Milwaukee by a point the other day, but again, they took them all the way to the end of the game, and that could have went either way in the later half of that fourth quarter. So when you really look at it, Miami has beaten, dominated, and come close to actually like almost sweeping through the Eastern Conference over the last couple of weeks, some of their best teams. So I don't see why Miami can't really sit here and say, you know what, we're going to go back to the finals and we're actually going to compete for an NBA championship again. So definitely not a surprise for me.
I mean, Kevin, I'm with you 100% on this one. I mean, with the way things are looking for the Heat right now, as long as they keep playing consistent basketball, they have a very good shot to finish the season as the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. And I think that's going to bode well for them as we get into this playoff run once April and May start coming around. Because it's like you stated, they've been on a pretty difficult stretch as far as the opponents they're going up against, but they're being extremely competitive in these games. That Milwaukee one was a tough one. That was a game that they probably should have won. But I mean, beating Chicago, beating Philadelphia, these are the teams that you need to beat. And not only that, they were able to beat Brooklyn. And Brooklyn is really kind of one of those dangerous teams because you never really know what Brooklyn's going to present because Kyrie is just an absolute nightmare to deal with now that Kevin Durant's back in the fold. Those are just two guys that you're going to have to try to lock up defensively. It's very difficult to do. But the Heat have shown that they have the defensive prowess to actually run it with the Brooklyn Nets. And I find that really impressive, knowing that, to be quite honest with you, the Heat don't necessarily have a loaded superstar roster, but the roster that they have fits perfectly for the personnel that they have at their disposal. Jimmy Butler is one of the best two-way players in the game. He's been playing stellar this year. Not only that, Bam Adebayo down low, he is just a presence on both the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball. He's been great this year. But I really want to focus on some of these role players that have really stepped up for the Heat in different moments of the season so far. When I look at someone like Tyler Hero, the last 2 or 3 weeks, he's been absolutely sensational. He's putting up sometimes 20, 25, 30 points a game coming off the bench and providing just a huge spark for Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat as a whole. But not only Tyler Hero, you look at guys like Max Strus, Gabe Vincent. These are typically players that you don't hear a lot about in the national media coverage, but these guys are going out there and making a huge impact, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side of the ball as well. Just from top to bottom, this Heat roster is phenomenal. They're playing top tier basketball. They're doing it against the best teams, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA as well. And I think as long as they just keep playing consistent, that they don't force turnovers, they don't make any bad decisions on a consistent basis, I really do see this team being a top flight team when it comes to the playoffs. Now, I don't know if they're going to get all the way to the finals, but they have all the pieces to make that run possible. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this team goes in May, possibly June. We'll see how that goes. But with Eric Spoelstra coaching them, with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry providing the leadership presence for that team, I think it's very possible that Miami goes to the finals this year. That's just how I see it.